Hey, how's it going? It's Monday morning. I got the day off work, so what better time for an update? I'm going to start this one off a little different than usual. It's more of a promotional thing, really. I got a message from a guy named Kyle. Now, Kyle does a solo black metal noise project out of London, Ontario called Nothing. I've seen him live a few times, they're great. But one of Kyle's friends, a dude named Jason, who's from Brooklyn, New York, he asked Kyle to get my mailing address so he could send me a package of a project that he's involved with. I never want to turn up free shit, so send it along. And he did. It's a CDR. We've all seen that. But the project itself is actually pretty cool. It's called Cough Park, and what he's done is he has a call-in line. It's accessible 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. You call in and you leave a 3-minute message. Now, the subject matter is dreams and ghosts and kooky shit like that, and then you recount your experience or your story, and then he puts in like background music to it, like synth stuff, like all trippy and weird, somewhat disturbing, just oddball music, stuff that fits the subject matter. And then he releases it twice a year on CDR and on Bandcamp. So he's totally reliant on contributors. Uh, so yeah, I guess he was hoping I promote it, even though my channel's not really some wide ranging thing. I wouldn't think anyway. Uh, so yeah, here's the info to it. I hope that focuses. Um, I'm gonna put the link to the Bandcamp in the description anyway, so it's got all the information on it. But yeah, if you think you can contribute and you have a story to recount or an experience or whatever, then do it. Maybe you'll be on the next installment of Cough Park. But yeah, thanks Jason for sending this. That's cool. Now on to the vinyl. Starting out with a fucking banger, a reissue of the self-titled Kalashnikov 7-inch. Was originally released in 1984 on, I think, HUB Records or Hub. I think it's HUB though. And then re-released this year on Adult Crash. This thing's great. I mean, it's a band from Denmark, probably best known because the song Schluter's Cabinet, which is also on this, was on the Peace Comp way back when. Um, Kind of reminds me of a cross between like maybe Vice Squad and like Rudimentary Peni or something. Every song on this is fucking great. Uh, yeah, totally necessary reissue for sure. I mean, originals probably not easy to find, and if you do find them, they're going to be expensive. This is a well done reissue. It sounds great, so definitely a worthwhile purchase. I've listened to this a lot. I really like it. Next up, another reissue. This time from British Columbia here in Canada. Siggy Magic and the Hey-Ho Band. Commercials for free. Originally released by the band in 1978. If you can find an original copy nowadays, it's literally like $1,000. So this is a well done reissue. Save your money and get this. Neon Taste just released this in the last like month or two. Um, it's a soundtrack for a short film starring Siggy Magic. Apparently, the Hey-Ho Band was just a group of studio musicians. I'd heard them before because they were on one of the Smash the State compilations. Um, it's good. It's kind of like inept in a way. Like they sound like the band and the singer sound like they're out of time with each other, but it still works. Super catchy. Like it'll stick in your head all day. Um, the vocals kind of remind me of one of the characters on like the Schoolhouse Rock cartoons from Saturday morning in the 80s. Like he should be singing about signing bills and conjunctions and adjectives and shit. But yeah, definitely like a worthwhile early punk band. Like they don't get hyped up much, but they're a lot better than a lot of the Kill by Death bands that get way more praise, or Kill by Death style bands that get more praise. Next up from 1987, Expatriate, No Sleep Till Chugwater. It's on Mosh Records. Uh, Three-piece band from Colorado Springs, Colorado. Uh, I had heard this band before. Years ago, I had a comp 7-inch called Colorado Crew 2, and it had the song Sometimes Love Is Fucking Stupid on it. It's a slightly inept, kind of clunky like metal punk song. Not quite crossover, just more of a metal punk thing. I've always been curious what the rest of their shit sounded like. I've seen this, for sale on, eBay and on people's sale lists and shit for like many times, but it's always like $5. It's not expensive at all. But I've just never got it. And then this time I had a Discogs order and I just wanted to justify the postage better, so I had them throw it in. It was, I don't know, like $3 or $4. But yeah, the rest of the songs on here are closer to actual crossover, but more in the cryptic slaughter style of crossover where it's like, blisteringly fast. I feel that these guys played so fast that it was almost beyond their ability. Like they're almost on the verge of falling apart, but they don't quite do it. It's a good record. It's about as good as I expected. They got a song called Megadeth Sells, but Who's Buying? That's pretty good. But the cover of Tequila, completely unnecessary. As is the fact that the guy's wearing a fucking fedora. Just don't. So yeah, Expatriate. Next up from 2001 on Dirt Nap Records, it's the Spits 19 million AC. I have a 12-inch version of this, but I've never had the original 7-inch, and I found it for pretty cheap, so I picked it up. Spits, top 5 band for me. Love them. Their live show, top 3 for me. It's great. They're I think they started out in Michigan, and then they ended up moving to Washington State. Very Ramones influenced musically. Sometimes they use a drum machine, not all the time. Definitely not live. The vocals are pitch shifted most of the time, so it's kind of like it's got that Will Ferrell old school, like, you're crazy kind of thing. Live shows, like they set their cymbals on fire, which always impresses me, and there's always a lot of like bickering and pushing each other around between the members and stuff. They're just a great fucking band. They've got a lot of shit out. There's a new LP coming out next month, I think, which I'm pretty stoked on. The only thing that pisses me off about the Spits is they repackage the fucking same records and then they trick you into fucking buying them. Like, I've got multiple copies of different records just with different covers because I thought they were actually different releases. It's like take advantage of a fucking old man. But great band. Next up, just from the last couple months here, it's the Ray Gun self-titled 7-inch. It's on my buddy Jesse's label. It's trash. Jesse was on tour with his band, Clazo, and they played with these guys in Nashville, which is where Ray Gun's from, and liked him enough to release the record. It's kind of what you'd expect from Nashville, like modern garage, trash punk, rock and roll type stuff. Muddy production, very noisy, kind of echoey vocals. Not too far removed from, definitely influenced by like the Oblivions and the Retards and Rat Traps and shit like that. But there's also like a noise punk element to it, like something you'd hear maybe like Bovine Records would have released in the 90s. Like I can actually hear like, Pachinko in this, or like the Festering Ring-Yanians. Like it's just, so it's just basically trashy modern garage rock and roll with a noise punk influence. It's good stuff. The soundtrack for a bad day. That's what it sounds like. Now we move on to metal. Japanese metal in particular. It's a band called Risingfall. It's called Cry for the Steel. It's on Terror Execution Records, which I believe is a Chinese label. But the band's from Tokyo, I believe. They got I guess it's a pseudo Obi. The inside's got the live shot. There's the back of that shit. And then the unhindered cover. It's a nice package. There's a bunch of stickers in it. It's limited out of 100. As with a lot of recent Japanese metal that I've listened to, like this came out last year, but it's very Iron Maiden, but there's still a speed metal thing, like kind of buried down in there somewhere. Kind of reminds me in a way sometimes of a more restrained Revenge from Columbia that did records on like Floga and I think Hell's Headbangers. It's pretty good. It's consistent with the other Japanese stuff the other Japanese metal that I've got in the last while. Next up, more metal, this time from Traverse City, Michigan. The Glorious Dead, Imperator of the Desiccated. I've only recently made the acquaintance of Marty Worm, who obviously, as you all know, or you all should know, also does the channel. He's a guitar player in this band, and he is the guy behind Bind Ruined Recordings, which released this. This is from last year. Good old school death metal. B-side is a live track, which isn't ruined by the fact that it's a live track because it actually sounds pretty good. Yeah, I'd never heard them before I actually, made the acquaintance of Marty. Pleasantly surprised with this. This one came out last year. I also got the LP, which is Into Lifeless Shrines. This takes it up a notch. This is a fucking powerhouse. I've seen it reviewed a bunch of times. I don't think I've seen a bad review of it, because there shouldn't be, because it's fucking great. One of the better death metal records I've heard in the last while. Like I said, I've seen a lot of people speak on it that are definitely more qualified than I. Like, I'm not, a die-hard death metal guy. Like, I like it, fair enough, but there are definitely people out there that are way better at discussing it than me. Someone mentioned a comparison in some parts of this to Gorefest, who I hadn't heard in years, so I reacquainted myself, and yeah, I can totally hear that. The slower parts, there's some like bolt thrower in there. It's super crushing. Nice package. Like, it's got a CD copy of the LP in here, and there's a download code and all that shit. Colored vinyl. It's a good package. Totally worth your time supporting Bind Rune and the Glorious Dead. I will continue to buy shit as long as they put it out. So thanks for hooking me up, Marty. I appreciate it. Next up, more metal. This time from Turkey, which is pretty fucking coincidental considering it's Thanksgiving here today. It's a band called Persecutory with the shiniest fucking cover ever. So glare be damned. The record's called Towards the Ultimate Extinction. It's on Gods of War. It was released last year. Originally released in 2017 on CD on the same label. But yeah, this is some pretty fucking scathing black metal. Just fucking relentless. The thing that makes it different kind of is there's two types of vocals on here. One being what you would expect from black metal, like the hissing witch fucking deal. But the secondary vocals are more in that kind of like stark, echoey, like industrial metal type thing, like Godflesh or something. But it works. It makes it more interesting, at least to me anyways. I mean, I'm sure there's black metal purists out there that'll, freak the fuck out and say that it's, not worthy or whatever, but fuck off. They're from Turkey. They do whatever the fuck they want. Speaking of doing whatever the fuck they want, another band from Turkey. It's on a split 10-inch, which is something they shouldn't have done because it's a shitty format. But it's a band called Sarinvomit, and they're paired up here with another band called Godslaying Hellblast. Band share members, like I said, they're both from Turkey. Records, it's a joint release between Hate and Murder and Pagan Infantry, which is actually a cool name for a label. But I was familiar with Godslaying Hellblast before. It's quite a fucking name. I have a couple other records. Sarinvomit, I had never heard. Both bands play like, it's a black metal, but there's definitely a grindcore element to it. They're both fairly similar sounding. They share members, so I guess that can be expected. Sarinvomit has a little more Slayer influence in the guitars, so I think that's what kind of, sets them apart from each other, I suppose. But it's a worthwhile record. I just wish it was actually a 12-inch, because 10 inches are kind of irritating. Next up, from 2013 on Feral Ward Records. It's Selfish. Life Has No Vacant Time. You could completely convince someone that this is Deathside if they didn't know better. very Japanese hardcore influenced, despite the band being from Finland. Saw them live in Toronto a bunch of years ago. They were fucking great. But I don't recall them sounding as much like Deathside as they do on this. Like, complete Japanese hardcore worship. And played properly. You know, driving and anthemic, you know, unapologetic fucking Japanese hardcore from Finland. Next up, I think this came out in 2015. Broken Bones, A Single Decade. It's on Havoc Records. Yeah, A Single Decade. That's so clever because it's their first few singles all put onto a 12-inch. Yeah, for people that don't know, you know, Broken Bones, it's Bones from Discharge. You know, in this other band, they're still like a you know, like a British hardcore band, obviously, but a lot more. They got more melody to them than Discharge. Their lyrics are obviously more wordy, because, I mean, whose aren't? But, yeah, like, completely, you know, set apart from Discharge, and, you know, just as enjoyable, depending on my mood. So, yeah, Broken Bones. I don't think I really need to explain them too much. Most people know them. Here's one that I've been looking for 25 years, maybe. It's Killroy, Believe in the Ruins. It's on Upstart Records, 1984. Band from LA, more specifically Woodland Hills, California. The deal with this is that I grew up in a small town. When I was a teenager, there wasn't many people that were into punk. Like, you would literally get your fucking ass kicked if you weren't careful. You know, there's 5 or 6 of us. My buddy's cousin actually had this record, and I've never seen it in person anywhere else. But we all really liked it, and I've always wanted it, but I've just never seen it like for a price that I wanted to pay until now. So I got it. Very, you know, Southern California punk of the time, like Adolescence type stuff. But there's a pretty solid like 77 punk influence to it as well, almost verging on oi, you know, street punk at times. Very catchy though. It's very good. Like, I don't usually like that combination too well, but this is a winner. I'm glad I got it too. It's been a long fucking time coming. They were also on the Barricaded Suspects compilation that more people would probably know than this record. Next, another old California band. This is from '85, from Placentia, California. It's Doggy Style, Side by Side. A fairly well-known band. It's on Flipside Records. I've never actually owned this, but a buddy of mine owned it. And the songs on here that I like a lot. But there's some kind of jokey shit to it. Like, there's some rapping parts and stuff that I just don't feel is really necessary in there. It's just fun, you know, mid to up tempo, you know, hardcore punk from California from the time period. Just not too hard to imagine what you'd be expecting. Members of this went on to be in the Cottonmouth Kings and Mind Over 4, which actually I didn't know before I kind of did a little bit of research. I saw Mind Over 4 once. Pretty unremarkable, but I wouldn't expect them to have a member of Doggy Style. And lastly, from 1989, Libido Boys, Hiding Away. It's on First Strike Records. This band's from North Mankato, Minnesota. I've been aware of them, you know, since I was a teenager. I used to write and trade tapes with the guitar player of this band before this record came out. He's the one that turned me on to a lot of stuff from Minnesota, obviously, and from South Dakota. The first time I ever heard Misery was from this guy. You know, Dissent, even to the poppier punk bands like Porcelain Boys and shit. It was that guy. Super nice dude. I used to have a copy of this, but I must have traded it away over the years. I kind of just was reminiscing a bit and figured I'd grab another copy, and it's not very expensive. So, musically, they kind of sound... there's definitely an SNFU element to them, but there's also kind of a 7 seconds thing going on, but I think that might be more in the vocals because he kind of has that squeakier, kind of higher pitched, vocal delivery. There's a little bit of metal on the guitars, but not enough to make it legitimately metal. So, yeah, Libido Boyz. I think after this, they became kind of more... I've looked at their records. I haven't actually heard them, so maybe I'm just talking out my ass, but I kind of think they might have went kind of more of an alternative, even an alternative metal route. I don't know. I should pick one up next time I see it just to be sure, or at least listen to it on YouTube. But yeah, it just looked like something I wouldn't be interested in. So yeah, so that's everything. I gotta find something else to occupy my day. So see ya.